Recording. All good.
Hey guys, Nathan here from BodyBrainIntegration.com, and today we're going to be talking with Dr. Perry Nicholson about pain in the brain. So as we know, neurology and the way we process information has a huge impact on how we can move. And I've drawn a little dummy behind us here. I'm not an artist, but it's going to make do. And essentially, what we're going to be talking about is how pain can create roadblocks in the body and hijack movement. So essentially speaking, when we stand up like this, there's a lot of noise. A lot of you would have already heard the podcast we did with Perry around how we can change our gravity and move down to take away the noise. But essentially, every time we move, there's all this information coming down our spine and feeding different areas of our body, creating stability in the middle, movement through the shoulders, the arms, upregulating function through the legs. But what can start to happen is when there's an injury, for example, a past knee injury, or maybe even a shoulder injury, it can really affect our thoughts and beliefs around what we can do. So Perry, what are your thoughts on this side of things?
Yeah, well, I've really gravitated towards this over my last 20 years of being in the healthcare field because, I started out just treating body parts, right? And then my journey was to figure out why stuff happened, why the body does what it does. One of my favorite lines is, the brain is smarter than you are, which means, or think like your brain, right? So when you have injuries from whatever it is, from trauma that happens to you or stuff that just happens over time, and you have pain, that becomes an area of vulnerability for you, right? So even when you get over the pain, you've adapted some type of compensation. I hate to use the word dysfunctional, because it's really not dysfunctional if you think about it, right? So in order for you to move around pain or around something, you have to become highly functional a different way, right? So it's actually not a bad thing. It's what your body's designed to do to protect you. So when you actually begin to speak to people like that, to say that this is dysfunctional, you're already kicking off this in relationship to that.
So that's important what you've just said there, Perry. So using the term dysfunctional can cause a negative effect up here.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The words you choose to speak to someone, saying dysfunctional, for instance, they already feel bad enough about themselves. They get this connotation. They go back to their mental file folder of what dysfunction means, either from a mental or physical thing. And then when you maybe use the word weak, you use the word weakness for someone, it's the same thing. So I never use the term weakness when I'm speaking to someone. I actually hate the word corrective.
You do?
Exercise. I've always been looking for corrective. Corrective implies that you're not doing something right. I have to correct you. And that sits deep in your brain from when you were a kid, right? Because when you were young, the world was you could do anything, and then everybody's like, well, you shouldn't do it this way.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do it that way. That's wrong. Let me show you the correct way. Well, whatever way your body needs to work to get something done, that's your correct way. So I actually use a new word now. I do not use the word corrective. I use the word effective.
Effective.
So I don't care what it is, as long as it's effective. And how do you know it's effective? Well, one, you feel better, you move better, and your mindset and your mental and your physical changes. So an exercise that somebody chooses to do is only corrective if it's effective.
Yeah.
Just because you do it doesn't mean it's correcting anything.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same with teaching. Just because I can teach you something doesn't mean you're learning it.
That's right.
And that's the same because you're trying to teach people different ways to move, right? But let's use effective. That's positive feedback. This is also about effort. So people think that they have to go harder, faster, stronger, longer to change something.
Yeah.
So the more efficient you are, the more effective you are, the less effort you need.
Yeah, that's really good points. So being aware of language we use and how it affects this relationship, because we have a very generalist perspective in our history of approaches where we go, right, if somebody's moving a certain way, maybe if I've got that knee injury we spoke about before, I might avoid by moving my body a slightly different way or rotating a certain way to avoid things. But Perry, you've just brought up a fantastic point about our language. So if there were some taboo terms like vulnerable weak or corrective, if somebody had a lot of issues like potentially we saw some dysfunction, so they were trying to avoid moving toward that sore knee, or there was rotations occurring, what sort of language, you've said effective, but how can we communicate and connect with that person to empower them to be able to start making changes? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a pretty powerful question, and I think it's going to change based on each individual, honestly.
Yeah.
I kind of give the answer that everybody hates. It
Yeah.
depends. Because the thing that's unique about movement is that it is individual, right?
Yeah.
So when we're trying to assess someone, for instance, like an overhead squat, right? A standard assessment.
Yeah.
All overhead squats are not the same. And yeah, you want to look for benchmarks of, do your legs go below parallel? Do your toes go straight? Do they not cave in? Do you lean forward? But that's just body part stuff. And we're also looking at the ability to put that together. But I always tell people, what's different about your squat compared to my squat? It's your squat. I mean, what's up here is affecting how you move there. So the first thing that I have to take into account when I speak to someone is, one, I have to look at them as an individual. And I don't even begin to get into movement assessment or programming until I get to know this up here. So I spend a ton of, one of the things they say in the clinical world is that if you spend 90% of your time on talking to someone and a history, you're not gonna waste all this unnecessary stuff for treatment that they might not need, because every single person, how they move is telling you a story.
Yeah.
It just depends on, are you open enough to observe it? Because when I talk about the word vulnerability, this guy has only a few things that's concerned with. The biggest thing is that it's not dead.
Yep.
I mean, that's the ultimate goal. And then a lower form of dead is just injured, right? So I don't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
So it's going to move you to avoid threat or to avoid discomfort. So for me, it's very, very simple. When I see anybody shift away from something or implode into anything, I'm not looking at it as well, you can't do that because your ankle's locked up or you've had that injury. But if you've had that injury, I know that you're pulling away from something that makes you feel vulnerable, and you're going into what? Safety.
Yeah.
So I no longer use the word stability in training.
You don't?
No.
So why don't you
I
use
hate
the
the
word?
word. I use the
stability?
word safety.
So what's wrong with the term stability? Because everyone always talks about stability.
Because nobody has any idea what the hell it means.
Okay.
So some people say stability is motor control, which is patterning, right? But too much stability is just as bad as not enough. So when people want to train stability, for instance, what I find is that they put them in massively unstable environments, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to try to make you stable by putting you in a very unstable environment. And when you do that, what's happening up here? Freaks! I mean, it's so worried about getting hurt that you're actually pulling it further away from where you want it to go. So if you make the brain and the body feel safe, it'll give you anything you want, right? So if you think about stability training in a concept of how we look at it now, well, I'm going to put you on an unstable surface. It could be a Bosu ball, right, that's inverted upside down, and usually we're like, well, if we put something you've got to hold, or I throw something I'm going to throw something physically at you at the same time, and yes, you are trying to maintain stability. Yeah. But for here, the main goal of your brain is don't fall off this thing and don't get hurt. Yeah. So it won't learn anything. What I'm trying to do is teach it something. So what I got to do is I got to make you feel safe. So if I think about a safety standpoint, how safe is that to your average person? It's not, right? So the brain and the body will give you whatever you ask of it, right? Depending on how you ask it. So that's something I use all the time, is that I can say to my body, I want you to give me stability, but I'm not asking it the right way. Okay. I have to ask it in a nice way. It's like real life. I come up to you and I'm a jerk. I'm like, give me what I want. I'm going to push you harder to get it. What's your first instinct? You're going to push off. You're going to say, bring it.
Yeah.
Right? But if I come up and I'm nice and I'm kind and I ask you, my chances of getting it are greatly improved.
Yeah.
So in my world, everybody's always trying to go at something harder, faster, stronger, longer. from rehab to correctives to training. I just want to take you back to that, because it seems so simple, and it is.
Yeah.
That's why people don't do it,
Yeah.
because it seems so simple.
That's right. That's right. That's something you've done really well, Perry, is you've made keeping something simple popular again, because we like to overcomplicate things. One thing we talk about a lot is people who are passive in their bodies. So they might make their way around, have no idea that there's a lot of joint loading. So I like to talk about joint loading, where I stack all my joints up so I don't have to load my soft tissue. It's energy effective because I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And we catch people in these postures they're unaware of. So sometimes if people are finding that they're more on potentially a passive side, where they get through life, they don't understand how their body moves, they don't understand what their abilities are, so they're in a highly avoidive predicament. Mm-hmm. We want to get them back into the active, or back in the driver's seat.
Right.
So what we've done, from what we've spoken about so far, is we allow the human or the person to tell us their story through their movement, and help us better understand how connected they are. Create a safe environment that enhances their learning. But are there any other thoughts you have on how we can move people away from the passive back into the driver's seat to say, you know what, I can actually start taking control and having some ownership?
I think that's a really great way to look at it, and I think that it is putting people back in a state of where they feel empowered.
Yep.
At least you've got to cross over two areas, right? In the pain world, when you're in chronic pain and you've been hurt, and it just doesn't seem to get better even though you're trying to be proactive. But a lot of healthcare is passive, right?
Yeah.
Give me something to take, do something to me. But, I heard Bobby at the Capuccio at the Philex say to people in the room, which was really interesting, he said, how many people in here change lives? How many people think you change lives? And almost everybody put up their hand.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I'm telling you, you're not changing anybody's life, because the only person that can change another person's life is that person.
Wow.
Right? Which
That's
is
great.
true. So what we have to do is we have to play a role to help that person feel empowered, because so much of their life, when they step outside of your world, is very negative. It may be their support structure at home, if they have any, or to work, or to just bombardment with where you should be, how you should look, how you should perform. So we almost just like disempowered because of pain, but disempowered because we don't like how we look on the outside. And you're never going to heal if you hate this. Right? How you feel about yourself is going to transcend into everything. And this passive to active, the one thing that I've found very helpful for me is that if you look at the body, when people get into training and they want to change a habit, right? They get motivated for a little while, but then they usually end up what? Quitting. Because they go from 0 to 1,000 miles an hour and they just burn out.
Yeah.
Right? So they need to take these baby steps, hence why I'm throwing the word baby in there, because my program is designed to take you back towards areas where you learn to be active in the first place. Down on the ground here, where you have a lot of safety, but you have a lot of feedback from touch on the ground, or from the earth, even better if you're outside.
Yeah.
So, and what you learn, and you probably even know through studying the brain and neuroscience, the more sensory input I have into here, the more I'm going to be able to affect the motor control in your brain to change what patterns here.
Beautiful.
Because what's interesting about motor control, it's more sensory than anything else.
Yeah.
So the skin and the brain are from the same neurodevelopmental tissue, the ectoderm. So if I touch your skin, I explode your brain.
Yeah.
Right? So when I put more of your surface here, then you're more aware of your body because it's touching more things. Because now we're only aware of what? Like a phone and then nothing else. And I use a quote all the time that I got from Ido Portal, where he said, and I did it at the Philex convention, it said, we're humans first, we are movers second, and we are specialists third. Right? So if you think about that, the human being side comes first. Then we all need to learn to move, and you can't learn to do specialty things like walk, run, punch, bend, twist, or even do athletics where I want to be, I'm a lacrosse guy, I'm a football guy, I'm a rugby guy. But you know, if your specialty is over here, that's what we try to change here,
Yeah.
right? But here's the sweet spot. This is what I call the creamy filling.
Yeah.
That's the creamy filling.
Yeah.
So teaching you how to move where Mother Nature taught you in the first place, which was here. You didn't pop out of your mommy running, right? Because that would be really cool, first of all.
Yeah.
Like that, remember that, you ever see that Doritos commercial where the kid comes out for the Doritos? But, so here's the cool part. If I can make you not a better mover,
Yeah.
but a more efficient mover. I even hate that word better,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Efficient, because it means something different to everybody.
Yeah.
Maybe efficient for you is I'm kicking your ass when I compete against you. Maybe efficient for her is I can get down on the ground and play with my grandkids and nothing hurts me anymore.
Yeah.
Right? If I heal this, I'm automatically going to improve your specialty.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to hurt you because there's no such thing, in my opinion, as sport-specific training. Right? There's sport-specific coaching.
Yeah.
I can get you better at skill set of swinging a bat.
Yeah.
But if I get you moving better here, I'm naturally going to get you to better swing a bat.
Yeah.
Because I'll get you to rotate. So I'm not going to screw you up. But here's the rub. This feeds forward, but it also feeds back to making, if I help you move better, I'm going to make you a better human being. Because you see it, right? When people move, don't they start to smile more?
Yeah.
Don't they start to feel better? Don't they begin to embrace life? And holy cow, dude, I get excited about this shit. So this in the brain, you talked about going down, right? So
Yeah.
that's feed comes down, and then come back. Feed
Yeah.
forward, feed back.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what this is.
Yeah.
Feed forward, feed back.
Yeah.
You get both. And that's what we want to tap into here. So when you're training anybody, I mean, Thomas Edison said, the only purpose of your body is to carry your brain around.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
He's kind of smart. He invented like a light bulb or something,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's a really brilliant statement.
Beautiful. I think we've covered some really powerful things here. So understanding potentially how pain can affect our brain, but also looking at it both ways. So some things you've said that have really been powerful just now are terms. So first understanding the terminology, using terms like vulnerable, avoidance, weak, and corrective. These are things we throw away every day. We want to sound like we're smart and we're specialists in effective movement or corrective movement. Some people use that as a badge.
Right.
But when we come over here and we think about changing our language around effective, and we individualize based on the person, everybody's movement will tell us a story, we make something safe. Safe isn't just about, this is my interpretation of what you said, safe isn't just about I'm throwing a med ball at you that you're not ready for, so you feel unsafe. Safety can also be in the way you filter information. So if you're getting this feedback about your body's very vulnerable, you're avoiding a lot of movements, you show a lot of weakness in these tests or muscle activation tests we're doing, we need a lot of corrective exercise. Sometimes this person's not going to feel safe and it's going to map them back over here into the passive lifestyle.
Yeah.
So if we can bring them over to this side and empower them and become more active, we can improve that two-way street and have this. Can you just summarize this last bit again, Perry?
Sure,
About
yeah.
human mover into specialty?
Absolutely. But I want to make sure I highlight one thing with safety.
Okay.
Safety doesn't mean easy either.
Yeah.
So people say that you got to make training and movement a little bit, you make it challenging, not difficult.
Yeah.
Which means you have this edge that I call the neural edge, where you've got this, on the other side of this edge is just extreme comfort. Like there's no need for you to challenge anything.
Yeah.
Right? And then you've got, the closer you get to the edge, you're feeling a little bit more threat. If I go over that edge, then I've gone into straightforward survival.
Yeah.
Right? And then what most people try to do when they want to expand their abilities, they try to make this hashtag beast mode badass.
Yeah.
They jump to try to make the survival zone really big.
Yeah.
But the survival zone won't get any bigger. I mean,
Yeah.
as soon as you hit it, you're done,
Yeah.
right? What you got to do is, I need to expand this range between comfort and survival. So if I have you just on this edge, if you think about it logically, that zone before threat gets larger. When that happens, the survival zone inherently gets what? It's smaller. So you don't hit your threat level as fast. So the key is, one of the greatest quotes I ever use is by my friend Paul McElroy. You know Paul?
I don't know Paul personally.
Paul is up in Belfast,
Yeah.
and he teaches the Amazing 12 program, and he makes people ungodly strong.
Yeah.
And he said a quote that blew my head up, because we're going after the same thing. He said, strength is not built. It's granted to you by your nervous system.
Wow.
Think about that word grant.
Yeah.
Your nervous system is not going to grant anything to me if it feels this.
Yeah.
But it'll grant it to me if you give it that. So that's what his training is around, and what my program of down here on effective movements are about,
Yeah.
is expanding your comfort zone, not expanding your I'm going to kick your ass zone.
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so to go back to this one, from the Ido Portal quote. We all got to remember that this is the baseline. Every single one of us is a human being.
Yeah.
So this is where we got to concentrate. That's this.
Yeah.
That's this, and it's here.
Yeah.
Right? Whether you think it's soul, universe, karma, I don't know. I don't care what you think. Right? From here. Then, in order, what makes us unique as living beings is what?
Expression.
We move. We
Yeah.
move, right? I mean, that's how we learn. That's how our life is vital. Because the opposite of movement is what? You're pretty much dead.
Yeah.
Right? So nothing happens until something moves.
Yeah.
Nothing happens until something moves. And then how you choose to pattern your movements together gives you your specialty. So I'm really good at throwing like a baseball.
Yeah.
So you develop a certain movement pattern for that.
Yeah.
Or I'm really good at, I don't know, boxing, whatever you
Yeah.
want to do. Okay? So what I don't want to go at is try to go over here to change anything from your movement pattern.
Yeah.
Because one, if you do, you're probably going to mess them up.
Yeah.
Because there's no such thing as totally symmetrical. You're living in the unicorns and rainbow land, right? So what I'm going to do is, if I go back to this,
Yeah.
if I make you a more efficient mover, and I do that through here, how you got it? Can you roll? Can you crawl? Can you breathe? Can you control your neck? Can you control your eyes? Does everything pattern the way it's supposed to? I call these are fundamentals, your ABCs.
Yeah.
You have to know your ABCs before you can write this word,
Yeah.
right? So if I go here, and I make you better at this again, this automatically improves. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
But that improves.
Yeah.
Because what people, when you help them do this, this naturally improves because this modified on top of that. And plus when they go down here, they usually smile, they usually laugh, they get out of their own way.
Yeah.
One of the keys to success, somebody told me, is just get out of your own way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when you do that, these two make that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when we get into athletics or training and we want to try to even specialty is weight loss,
Yeah.
don't go here, right? Because that's here.
Yeah.
You gotta go there.
Yeah. Great point.